All right, welcome back to another episode of the ConquerCast. I'm stoked for today. We've got Pete Nelson, the CEO and founder of SISU Saunas. You've been here in Utah now with us in the team for the last 3 days. I want to talk about the experience you've had. But man, such an honor to have you here. We just recently connected not too long ago, and I'll share how we connected a little bit. But you've got an incredible business going. You've got an incredible lifestyle. You're doing amazing things, and it's just been an honor to get to know you the last couple of days.
I feel the same way. The opportunity to be on this podcast with you means the world, but also to spend the last 3 days with you, the team, Truett this morning, and also Andy, the guy that really brought us together. Andy Tran is our chief marketing officer at SISU, who's turned into a really close friend. Yeah. But I didn't realize all the stories that you guys
We've got some history,
the hunting stories that you guys share. So we'd love to dive in on all of it.
Yeah, it's so cool. Andy Tran. It's interesting because our sales team last year hit a goal in one of the months, and I can't remember if it was one of the months or for the year, and they were like, hey, could we get a sauna here at HQ if we hit this goal, if we go above and beyond? It was a pretty good stretch goal. And honestly, we just figured we'll go to Costco, we'll get a sauna, we'll bring it into the facility, and the team can utilize it. And then as we started looking at it, I don't know what was happening at the time. I think Siri that knew what was going on, that knew the thoughts in my head. I was looking, and all of a sudden I started getting all these SISU, and I was just seeing you all over the place with Cam and with Nick Bear and a ton of different influencers out there. And I was like, who in the world is this Pete Nelson guy, and what's SISU Sauna? And I loved the content that was being created. And so I told the team, hey, I'm going to reach out to this guy and just kind of see. And I think I started following you. Who messaged first? Did you message me after I followed you? Or
Exactly. So you followed me. And then I think Andy had told me a little bit about you prior. Okay. And I'm like, no way. He just followed. So I followed you back, and I sent you a message saying, congrats on the success of your brand. Yeah. You guys are making an impact and a difference. Would love to connect. And little did Andy know, he didn't know that we had connected over social.
Chatting, yeah.
And then he connected us via text message saying like, hey, I really think you guys would benefit from, a conversation together.
Yep.
And you and I sent a text back like, what just happened? What are the odds? He had no idea.
So random. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was within probably 24 hours when we started chatting on social, and then Andy sends this message to connect, and it's like, and I didn't know Andy was working with you. I didn't know he was your CMO. And for the listeners, Andy went on both Alaska trips with my wife and my daughters, and then the one the year after with my son, and filmed those experiences. We're going to do a podcast with him as well, and we'll talk about how he literally kind of got us out of some treacherous circumstances in Alaska and really took care of us in a major way. But I've been a huge fan of Andy for a long time, and then it makes sense that you guys are working together. You guys are cut from the same cloth, just incredible individuals, men of faith, and honestly, I feel like that's where there's this immediate connection with you. Is we have a similar set of core values for the businesses, but they come from our lives, right? And I would say there's that immediate connection on that level that just it provides this trust that is rare to find.
I feel that when I got into SISU, when we started SISU, I wouldn't say that we were going in with this massive faith component. I think that what we realized going in was that we had a product that we wanted to provide for people to, obviously make an impact on their health and forge connection and grit. But as we were starting to find success, we were like, wait a second, there's a lot of these coincidences that aren't coincidences, like that's a God thing. And the more that we continue to pull back the layers and then get to meet people that are rooted in faith and the right values, we ended up realizing wow, faith is a massive component, a huge core value to what we do. And without it, it's not the same company. It's not the same culture. It's not the same ethos.
Yeah.
And for us to lean in on that faith component and just the way that we've connected and getting to see how you facilitate your meetings, the way that it's similar to ours, it was very validating and reassuring that we're on the right path.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's talk about that, what we've experienced together over the last 3 days. But before, we dive into that, I want the listener to know, what is SISU? We'll get into who you are as well, Pete. But your business, what is it, so that people understand, and then they'll know, okay, we're going to go through this. You're not just the sauna guy, but you're an incredible sauna guy. And then there's so many elements or layers that I want to dive into with your life and your childhood, and what you and your family are doing now. But kind of in a nutshell, what's SISU?
SISU is a Finnish concept with no literal translation from the Finnish language to the English language. But roughly what it means is perseverance, tenacity, bravery, and grit. And it's something that Finns, everyday Finns, embody. It's the cloudiest nation in the world, but it's also the happiest nation in the world. For every two people, there's one sauna.
That's so unreal.
Right. And if there's families of 4, 5, 6, you're looking at multiple saunas at these people's homes. And when you look at what's giving them the happiness and success, is that they have a moment of grit, whether that's through their lifestyle, whether that's through the adverse conditions, weather conditions up there in Finland. It's cold up there.
Yeah.
Or it's the sauna, where the sauna and the combination of all those, where it gets tough, but it's a shared suffering. There's no phones in the sauna. This is after dinner, and they're doing multiple rounds of heat training, heat therapy, but they're not necessarily viewing it as this very objective set of data where they're chasing all these health benefits.
Yeah.
They do it because they just feel good and they love how it brings people together.
Wow.
And so SISU is something that we wanted to bring to the United States, something that I feel like the United States lacks, which is this level of grit and tenacity and perseverance to really embrace doing hard things. But the vehicle that we just chose to manifest SISU through is the sauna.
That's awesome.
And when we got it off the ground, we launched it with one SKU in August of 2022. And we just kept it ridiculously simple, rooted in the quality, the simplicity, and the trust. Not only standing by the customer to make sure that the product is all of those things, but also like standing by our team members to make sure like they're taken care of and they're having the ultimate fulfillment through creating the product and delivering the product and making sure that the product is long lasting. That matters to us. And so everybody really embraces the SISU mindset and like the grit over glory mantra that we've been really thinking about the last few months of let's put in the effort, let's put in the work, but not expect this crazy success or glory moment of, man, like the spotlight is on us. It's just, let's just do consistent work, show up every single day and stay present. And I think that that's what SISU really means.
That's awesome. That's incredible. And then happiness occurs from all that, right? We had a meeting the other day where you were able to be a part of, and one of our team members shared that there was a moment in his life he had to choose to be happy. And I feel like our choice to work with SISU was a choice of happiness, and we bring in, your team involved in our team, and then putting a sauna down in our gym. But incredible. Thanks for sharing that. We'll dive a little further into the business here in just a bit, but let's go to your childhood and kind of start and give us a little timeline on your life and that grit, that tenacity, that perseverance. Was that instilled in you at an early age? Like, how did your parents parent, and what was your experience growing up?
Yeah. I'm 29 years old. So born in 1995, got an older sister by 4 years, Amy, younger brother, 4 years younger, AJ. And then my mom and dad, who've been married for 35 years. We grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and just on a entering suburb of Cleveland, and grew up in a very frugal household, 3-bedroom home. You go outside and you shoot hoops every day. You mow the lawn, you shovel the driveway. You're going around mowing other people's lawns, and you're walking to school. And it was just like it was a great childhood. Yeah. I wouldn't want to change a single thing about it. But when I look back upon it, compared to like the childhood that like our kids will have, it's, ours was, I feel like much more frugal, very like lower, like middle class. And I'm so grateful for that, because what it did, it kind of manifested and cultivated this set of values that were really rooted in hard work and execution. So when I was 4 years old, my mom, who had been suffering from epilepsy for quite some time, I believe that she started having epilepsy when she was 18.
Wow.
We were going tobogganing at this local hill in Cleveland, and it was my sister, my mom, and I, and she had a seizure at the wheel of the car, and she blew right through a red light, going right past the median, and then back up toward the highway.
Wow.
And there was one tree that might have been like 4 inches in diameter, and we hit it straight on. That was the only difference between the tree and the highway. and we hit it straight on, and my mom had to have emergency brain surgery.
Oh my goodness.
Now, my mom coming from a professional sports background, softball, she was also an incredible basketball player, volleyball player. It was pretty devastating for the family.
Yeah, I bet.
And so it made our whole family kind of look in the mirror, double down on family, the roots there, help my mom with her recovery. I'm still pursuing basketball the whole bit. And as you fast forward through, my father and my mom, who continued to chain smoke, my dad quit cold turkey when he was 48. So I was 17 at the time. And he stopped abruptly and was like, I need to do something that has a positive addiction, which ended up being running.
What caused him to want to stop abruptly like that? Is it?
It's a good question. I don't think I've ever asked him that question. I'm going to have to, but I had a feeling that he looked at his parents and then his in-laws who were also smokers and realized that the writing's kind of on the wall.
Gotcha.
And so he was like, hey, I'm going to get into running. So he kind of bypassed the 5Ks and 10Ks and went right for marathon running. And then when I was 17, he was like, hey, I'm going to do this 50K trail race. I would love for you to join me.
Wow.
And I had no reason to be on that trail with him that first time I ran a 50K. But remember, it was a three loop course, 10-mile loops, 10.5 mile loops. And we got 1.5 loops in, and I sat down by the aid station and my hands were on my head. And I look at my dad and I'm like, I can't do this. And he looked at me, and I won't say the word for word, but he called me out hard. And he's like, you're going to let a 48-year-old beat you right now.
Wow.
And that was all I needed to hear.
Wow.
I got back up. I hallucinated a little bit. We had like an hour of sleep the prior night just because we were being 17-year-olds at an Indians game the night prior. And I cried finishing and crossing the finish line because I realized in that moment that I had been leaving a lot on the line.
Wow.
And that started to snowball effect into other areas in my life where I realized that there's a lot more I could give if I just do the right thing but put in the work. And I also felt like I had this incredible connection with my dad now, where now we had this expectation that we're going to do tough things together.
Yeah.
So my father, who's now 61, the last 13 years has ran 155 marathons or greater distance. Albeit I'm at 28 ultras up to this point in one marathon. He's done 100 milers. I've done 100 milers. He's done the whole bit. And it's just something that we've really leaned in on together.
Yeah.
And about 2 years ago, he had come down with tongue cancer from the chain smoking, which rocked the family.
Yeah, I bet.
And this is where like the story gets crazy. He goes in for the tongue cancer surgery. They remove 60% of his tongue. They take skin and veins from his arm to recreate the new tongue. So he's going to have to relearn how to talk.
Wow.
It's a new muscle, essentially. In the recovery room, he ended up having a stroke. And the stroke was like a 1% of these patients end up having this type of stroke.
Wow.
So they had to open up the back of his neck, the whole bit.
During that surgery and everything, they kind of just...
In the recovery room.
Oh, in the recovery.
I was sitting there right in front of him when he had the stroke.
Wow.
And they had to catheterize through the top of his head, and they had to perform emergency brain surgery.
Wow.
And this is like one of those God moments where I get called in at 2 a.m. because they can't reach my mom. And they're like, hey, we need to make some important decisions here. And I get my sister, my mom, we all meet at the Cleveland Clinic, 2 a.m. This guy, an Indian guy, very loose English, comes in, winter jacket on. He comes rushing in and says like, hey, we have 3 different options here to do this surgery. This is the one that I recommend. And we choose the option that he recommends, right?
How do you know?
Right. I'm not a surgeon.
Yeah.
And afterwards, he takes off his winter jacket, and it reveals on his shirt, I forgot to introduce myself. My name's Charlie Nelson. I am your dad's emergency brain surgery. Wow. And immediately this wave of energy came over me because my unborn daughter at the time, who was going to be born 3 months, be delivered 3 months later, we already knew her name was going to be Charlie Nelson.
Wow.
So my wife and I were just like, wait a second. Is this my daughter meeting her grandpa because she won't ever see him? Or is it the opposite? Like, hey, I'm here to take care of you.
Wow.
And there's just all these crazy moments where, the whole family was just the most present 2 weeks of our life.
I bet.
Because now both of our parents have had brain surgery, and our entire family is just really galvanized around their health and well-being and just making sure that they're taken care of. But I
It's
was like,
amazing what happens to family and individuals when their life is on the line, when sickness is involved, and all of a sudden nothing else really matters. Everyone else around you is living their life, and you're like, no, we're just here in this moment of time where this relationship matters most, and it brings life into perspective in some powerful ways.
100%. And the craziest thing, so my dad had to learn how to walk after
Mm.
that stroke completely. I remember I would drop our kids off at the sitter a block away from where my parents live, and then I would go over to my parents' house and help my dad walk on the treadmill and like just stand there behind him, and he would do 200 meters, 400 meters, a mile. And then 6 months after this, after literally having to restart from zero at 61 years old, having a completely clean bill of health his whole life, he ran 40 miles at our charity event, Hell on a Hog's Back.
Wow.
And I was like, holy moly, the human spirit is undeniable. And
That is
it lights a
amazing.
fire within me every single day. When I know my dad is going to go out and run 8 miles today, I have zero excuse,
Huh.
absolutely zero excuse to not get my work in.
That's amazing. And didn't he just a week or so ago do the Japan marathon? Or
Yeah, he ran the Tokyo Marathon. He just completed all 6 world majors, and his goal is to do every single continent. Him and I went down to Antarctica exactly a year ago now.
I want
Actually,
to talk about that one too. That was
was
one of those in
fantastic.
your. So before, like a couple days ago, before Pete got out here, his sister sent over this like data sheet, this bio, but had a bunch of really cool questions and some information about Pete. I've never had that from a guest. So your sister, is it Amy?
Amy,
Amy,
she's the best.
you're a stud. I think that, wow, how well organized and put together this organization is, and just prepping the host of these podcasts to have something like that. But and so I learned a lot about you, and we put some of that to use over the last few days. We'll dive into that in a bit, but the Antarctica thing is awesome. With your dad though, he was doing all that running before this tongue cancer and stroke happened, right? Do they?
Yeah.
I mean, had he not been doing that, would he have? I mean, potentially not survived all this, right? Or do they talk about that? Have you guys contemplated that? If
Yeah.
because he must have been pretty strong going into that medical incident, but
He had an incredible physical preset going into this stroke. They did tell him like if he wasn't as in shape, he either wouldn't have made it or he wouldn't have been able to rehab.
same way, yeah.
But I am 100% convinced though that it was all mental.
Mm,
He uh, he's one of those guys that can compartmentalize so well, where he's not worried about next week, next month, whether or not I'm going to be able to accomplish this goal in a year from now. He's just so hyper focused on today, and that's one of the biggest qualities I admire. He knows what the work he needs to do today, and he's going to do it.
that's awesome.
And there's nothing that's going to stop him from doing it. And that let him be able to progress through his rehab. And it's very few people know how to compartmentalize, but you have to have had experience physically to be able to mentally compartmentalize like that. Otherwise, you're not going to rehab.
Would you
for
say
too
you
long.
have that same skill set?
I struggle with it here and there, but having learned through our family's difficulties and some stuff, and also like where our families really thrived. I mean, like again, our family is so happy, very fulfilled, great upbringing, the whole bit. We just had a couple unfortunate health, scenarios, but I think that some of these adversities, but also a lot of like the successes that we've experienced as a family, and then through my physical work, my career, it's all let me be able to understand the application of compartmentalization. And it's helped me be able to break down like big projects that the business is experiencing, the opportunities, the issues, and it makes it just much more digestible.
Yeah.
Because I get to show up to work, I get to show up with my family, and just understand like there's a specific like next step that I could do today for me to be able to get to where I want to go tomorrow. But I don't need to worry about where I'm at tomorrow if I can't do what I'm doing today.
And I think that comes down that is so representative of your grit over glory, because most of life is grit. There might be moments of this achievement or this, this glory, and that's not what you're seeking. The grit is where it's at, right? And it comes down to day-to-day choices that you're making, that don't always bring about the glory. All the things that we have to do in business or with family, there's not always a lot of glory in that, but it's so fulfilling to just grit and bear the burdens or the suffering or the opportunities. I mean, it's not all suffering too. It's like there's so much growth in that if you have the right mindset, you can see you're building something special. So,
And I really think that there's two types of grit. There's the grit that you choose and the grit that chooses you. And I'm not saying that everybody's life needs to be super adverse and super gritty all the time, but I do believe that there's an intentionality to choosing the things that you want to have to grit through, because that makes you better for the moments where the grit has to choose you.
Yeah, where it's happening for you, right?
Yeah. And I think that that's important, that you choose, the type 2 fun.
Yeah.
So you could be best present when it gets nasty, when
so good.
when God goes off, when it goes off your script and God goes on his script.
Yeah.
So
that's so good, because I want the listeners to really be understanding how to conquer in life. And one of the greatest ways is that you don't know when it's going to happen for you, when God is going to choose to, allow this thing to happen in your life. But if you're ready, if you're prepared, because you've chosen those gritty moments, or to persevere and work through difficulties, you're so much more well prepared. And so yesterday you spoke to our team and talked about always being ready for whatever life brings to you. So you and that's awesome. I mean, your family's been through some things. You've learned, you've grown, you gained some perspective. There's a mental aspect that was probably the biggest contributor to coming out of those things in a positive way. I did read on this fact sheet about the Antarctica race. Tell us about that, because did you win that race?
yes, it was the inaugural first Antarctica ultramarathon, and it was on the peninsula of Antarctica. And I went into this race with my father, where we had to delay it a year due to the cancer bout and the recovery. And it was a 2.5 week trip. Flew to Buenos Aires, down to Ushuaia, and then we got on a boat, like an expedition / like cruise boat, if you will, maybe 120 cabin ship, and then went across the Drake Passage, 48 hours. And then the first full day was the Antarctica Marathon and Ultramarathon. And then after that race, we had a full week down in Antarctica, getting to see the wildlife, getting to hike, eat good food,
Cool.
see the landscape, and then go back across the Drake Passage and then fly home. And it was the best trip of my life. And it's something that I obviously like relish, because it was with my father, but even more so, it was one of those changing moments where I went into the race thinking, hey, let's just go complete this race and have a good time. But then as I was towing the line and we got through about a loop, it was about a 5-loop course.
Okay.
I got back to the finish / start line on loop 2 and realized, wow, I could actually win this thing. So loop 2, loop 3, I was trying to fight back. It was the worst case of like trying to fight back some GI issues.
Dang.
And there was one like Home Depot bucket essentially with a little tent over it that was overflowing. And I remember just thinking like, I'm going to have to just deal with this. And so I somehow made it through that.
Wow.
And I had Argentinian candy as my carbohydrate source, and you could only eat the candy in one specific spot. You could only refuel in one specific spot because the terrain's so well protected, and there's penguins on the course and the whole bit. And
Argentinian candy, because that's all that was available to you there,
Yeah.
or that's what you brought with you
no, that was all that was all that was available.
over in the Antarctica. Huh?
Yeah. So we were in Ushuaia at a convenience store, and I'm just thinking, what's the easiest way for me to get sugar during this?
Wow.
So it was so well protected. But anyways, I ended up finishing and winning the race. That was my first ever big like race win.
That's awesome.
And in that moment, it just kind of like flipped a gear / switch, like, wow, I'm way more capable than I thought I was. And then 2, we were doing like photo, video, some interviews like there at the finish line. They're putting the race medal over, and we put back on our expedition gear after the race. And so I'm just sweating from the last, 4.5-ish hours. And I then just put this massive coat and these like waterproof pants on, and you're just shaking.
Because what's the temperature right now?
It was like mid-20s. It's their summer.
Their
so it was
summer
warm.
is warm.
Yeah.
Mid-20s, huh?
And so I get over to essentially like this lifeboat that would take us back onto the main boat. And I had never experienced chills like that in my life where like, it was just genuinely cold.
Wow.
And I got a hot shower, hot cup of coffee, and they didn't let me to go back onto the boat to like go cheer on my dad. They're like, you need to stay
Oh,
here.
really?
Yeah. And it was arguably one of the coolest, most surreal experiences because it was something I just never expected.
Yeah.
But now it helps fuel my training. Like I want that feeling again.
That's so cool.
And I was talking with a number of the guys that had ran the Antarctica Ultra, and they had ran some other awesome races in different continents, and they said the closest thing to this is running in Kenya, in this game sanctuary, 50K. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to do that.
So yeah,
I need that fill.
Is that coming up then? What's next on the dockets for you?
Yeah. So this year I've got the Grand Canyon rim to rim to rim. So it's a 48-mile, 15-ish thousand feet of elevation gain and loss. I've got Mount Whitney Summit. I'm doing our year 3 of Hell on Hogsback. My goal is 60 miles in 12 hours on this nasty hill in Cleveland. I'm going to do another road marathon this year. And then ideally a hunt, my first hunt.
Yeah.
That's high on the bucket list. And then next year we would roll into to do an Africa
That's awesome.
ultra marathon.
Very cool. In Kenya, in a game reserve, like a preserve, like where
Yeah.
they so the cheetahs and the lions will be chasing after you.
So ironically, the one that I want to do, one of the aid stations got shut down because the elephants stole all the bananas.
Yeah.
Like that's the coolest thing. Like, how would you not want to be a part of that? So
that's awesome, man. So cool. I mean, life seems to be an adventure for you, and I'm watching you right now with your company. You've been going around on this tour. It seems like you're going from here to next week. You'll be with Rich Froning. A couple weeks ago, you were with Chad Mendez. And you're getting to meet some incredible people and kind of learn about their culture, their life. Like, what's the last few days here at Mountain Ops been like for you? You came in on Monday, so
yeah.
What did we do Monday? And now all of a sudden that feels like a week or a month ago. Like what did we do on Monday? We know we got a workout in.
We got a workout in. We built out the sauna.
Oh, we built out the sauna. That was the most important thing. Yeah.
Yes. And then we grabbed dinner at Twigs.
Yeah.
Which was great. Got to see your home, meet your family.
Yeah.
And just chop it up, which was perfect.
Yeah. And putting together these saunas, it is pretty incredible. If you think of the Lincoln Logs as a kid, like this is a big kit of like adult Lincoln Logs that I was obviously I knew you'd be here putting it together. I wanted to jump in and be a part of it, but I was thinking, man, if he wasn't here, this would probably take me all day. I don't think so. It would have added some time because you just know the system. For sure would have added some time, but it's so well put together. Every cut, everything's ready to go. Everything's kind of separated in piles. So we pull it out of this crate. The funny thing is the crate got delivered to our accountant's house, and he called me. He's like, I swear I'm not trying to get this delivered to my house. And so it was delivered up here on Friday, but we got it put together in about an hour and a half.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. And I always admire when the people that, we're getting to build relationships with want to be part of the build process. And you came in and you were ready to go. You rolled your sleeves up and we had a blast.
It was a lot of fun. I was a little jealous of the nail gun you kept. I was like, oh, that looks like a lot of fun, but I'll screw it up if I do it. But yeah, I remember that morning coming up to the office and I was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to bring tools or what. So I grabbed a hammer and a drill gun and I was like, we'll see. Maybe we need to run to the store, run back home. But you guys came with all the tool set. You came with everything ready to go. It was a blast, and it's so if you guys will see some pictures, maybe even overlaid right now on this video. We found the perfect spot in the Mountain Ops gym, down in the corner there. It's just positioned beautifully. It fits so well into the building. So yeah, that's what we did. We put that together. Then we got a workout in, did some chest on Monday, went to Twigs. Tuesday, you got to experience some of the culture in our team coming together, and it's very similar to your culture. What are the similarities? Like, tell me about the culture of SISU, your team, what you saw at Mountain Ops, how they, we have so much in common.
It started off actually, where I realized that there was a lot of similarities was when we met up at the trailhead at 6:30 a.m.
Oh, that's
That's
right.
when
We did that. Yeah.
that's when I realized, all right, there's a lot of similarity. We had three of us. It was Andy, Trevor, and I, and went over to do this awesome mountain trail run in the snow. And there was
We weren't expecting snow. I mean, it was dry the night before, so we woke up to it felt like a foot of snow outside.
yeah, it was memorable, and it was super fun, and it just laid the groundwork for the day. It was that initial intentional grit of get the work in, and then from there came to the office, and we had you guys had your team meeting, and it was cool. You guys started it off in prayer, and it's something that we've been leaning more on with SISU, like our most recent quarterly meeting. One of our key members, who's our COO, looked at us and said, "Do you mind if I lead this in prayer?" And we were like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." And you just spoke so viscerally from the gut,
Yeah.
and it was like, wow, we need to do that more.
It's awesome.
And so now that's more so the standard, similar to how you just said, "Hey, you want to lead us in prayer?" Boom, here we go. So that was one part. Two, you guys went around and did your company headlines.
Yeah.
That's very similar to how we do with our leadership team. And then from there, each person would, or you had one person talk about their conquer story, which I thought was fantastic and made it really personal.
Yeah.
I also really admire how you guys let vulnerability be a key factor to what you do here. You don't need to put up this big front that you're this, all incredible, no strings attached, like perfect person. Everybody struggles, and I think that's a huge thing with your Conquer More mantra. And then from there, I love the values section where we haven't done that, and that's something I wanted to like pick, from what you guys did and bring to SISU is have one person prepare how we manifest and how they manifest one of our key core values. I love that.
Yeah.
And then you let us speak, share the SISU story, talk about sauna, talk about, our family. I thought the opportunity meant so much to us.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Oh, it meant a ton to us too, because everyone's been so excited. It was like Christmas morning with you guys showing up with this sauna. But then to understand, I've always felt like when you can understand the founder, the individual that kind of had this thought and this vision before, and understand where it came from, and it didn't just come out from nowhere. Like you shared with our team that you had decided, like, we're not going to do this at one point, right? Like, can you share that with us? Like,
yeah, we were initially sauna consumers ourselves, and it was 2020. My business partner Nick Daddis bought a barrel sauna from a company, and he got that sauna as a result of an XPT experience out in Hawaii with Laird and Gabby, and Tim Ferriss was there. Really wild, but bought a barrel. He told me about it. We got a pod sauna, and then we were like, wait a second, there's an opportunity here for us to be able to sell for this company specifically in Ohio. Anytime when somebody in Ohio would want one of these saunas from this company, we could filter the sale. So we would sell, basically to friends, family once every other month or so. And they would get a good discount. Everybody's happy. And then COVID hit, and we had a 12-month stretch without a single sale. Man, I was working like a dog trying to make one sale on the side, because at the same time, I'm a trainer, manager, and co-owner of a gym in Cleveland. We're scaling that brand, and it felt like this was becoming a huge time suck. And I would have to go on so many different calls with one person to try to filter a sale, and then no sale would ever come. And obviously, like, God had a bigger plan. I'm super grateful for those times.
Yeah. How long were you, really quick, so in this timeline, how long were you running a gym, owning a gym, and doing all that?
I started it at the gym. My business partner there, Tom, took a gamble on me when I was 19.
Was that when you were like kind of famous for Pete 90X?
I was hoping you could bring that up. Oh my gosh.
Pete 90X.
No.
We experienced this as a team yesterday, and Pete took us through the Pete 90X routine, and it was a killer workout. It was awesome.
It was so fun. I can't believe my sister.
It was included in the bio, and I said, hey, we've got this team workout we're going to do with you, and somebody's already prepared something, but I can't avoid the Pete 90X. So that was part of the gym?
No, it definitely was not. It was just like a stupid high school thing. That was my strength and conditioning program, was P90X. And then there was one time where I turned the ball over, where I threw the ball like overhead to a teammate, but the ball went sailing like 15 feet above their head, smacked like the cinder block wall, and then the student section started chanting Pete 90X. I was so red in the face. It was so embarrassing. And so my sister, I think she was at that game, and she just never let it die.
Yeah,
you know.
that's
So
good.
I respect her for it, but I'm gonna have to make sure that she scraps
No,
that from the
leave
bio.
it, leave it on, leave it
Yeah.
on. That more people need to experience it.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you've got the Pete 90X gym going, and and you're no sales for a month or a year, while you're trying to get that distribution going.
Yeah, and
You would think that during that time, people are at home, they'd want the saunas, but what was the conflict there? Why were people not wanting saunas at the time?
people wanted sauna.
Okay,
The marketing strategy
okay,
for SISU lifestyle, as we knew it then, was not good. Two, Ohio's not the right market, specifically Cleveland. It's the lower income demographic. People were super unaware, and also like sauna education wasn't where it's at today. But in other markets, sauna was absolutely booming.
okay.
And so it was a genuine struggle.
And you could only sell to that market with this distributorship, or is that kind of the territory you took from?
There's, I mean, theoretically, that was a territory we took from, but we could also sell to other people, but it's just, we weren't marketing to them at all. I mean, I still remember, we joke around about it, Nick and I. We were looking over any sort of like marketing strategy. We were Googling different marketing strategies to sell a sauna, and we came across this like ClickFunnels website, and we're like, man, it's $95 a month. Like, can we really afford that? You know, we haven't made a single sale. And I remember we pulled the trigger on it, and I had no idea what I was doing. And in this time period, Nick and I went on a early morning trail run. It was 5:30 a.m. We got our headlamps on. We're in the Cleveland Metro Parks, really, really beautiful Metro Park system on trails. We're bushwhacking the whole bit. He, at the time, him and his wife were just putting in a blind bid on a local library in Cleveland and Bay Village to buy it, convert it to a learner-driven school called the Acton Academy. And then our gym brand, you know, we scaled it from 30 members to 400 plus members. Like, that's still
Amazing.
moving and grooving. We decided to quit, and we gave up. We said, this is
On Sisu lifestyle.
Yeah.
It was just, that was,
like, what are we doing? Like, this maybe just, it's not in the cards. So made that decision maybe 15 minutes into the run. We're just laughing, having a good time after, and not thinking much of the decision, to be honest with you. It just felt right. And then something came to us, and 10 minutes later, we started saying, like, wait a second, like, why are we having these issues? Like, why are we having these problems? And like any entrepreneurial person does, you just start, you know, you put your head up in the clouds and start prophesying on all these like different visions that you have for potentially a new playbook on the business. Like, if we were to throw away the current playbook on SISU and create a new playbook, how would it look, feel? What would the key processes look like? What would be the products that we would develop? And by the end of the run, we ended up having like a really good mental playbook on a very simplistic sauna company that the US really needed. And what that looked like was a US source, US made, Amish handcrafted sauna company with a single SKU and no options, just add to cart. And it's all around this mantra of SISU, which we were already doing prior, but it was just way more complex, and we didn't have any control over it. US source, US made, Amish handcrafted saunas that are ridiculously simple. And like I was saying before, the core values of being quality driven, simplicity driven, and trust driven, that was a huge component to how we want to deliver our product. So we optimized for a website that would be really easy for a customer to access.
yeah.
So you go to sisulifestyle.com and you see the Edwin barrel, which is our very first product that we launched in August of 2022. And August 1 hit, we launched that single SKU, and it was everything that somebody would need to know to be able to purchase a sauna and be able to best be prepared for it when it ships within 4 to 5 weeks. And when August 1 hit, retroactively, it was now an 18-month period without a single sale. So we are all in on this idea. We started off as a wholesaler. We now have 6 months to gear up as a manufacturer. We took the profit that we had from the limited sales that we had from that 2-year period of wholesaling and reinvested it into the manufacturing and bought 4 saunas worth. And from that beginning, the whole idea was let's reinvest it, reinvest it, reinvest it, and grow it. And at the very start of the company, it was probably 2, 3 months in, we operated on EOS, which is the entrepreneurial operating system. We set a plan for our 10-year target to be 40 saunas a month.
Okay.
And I remember in that moment being like, wow, if we did 40 saunas a month, it would be life changing.
Yeah.
Like, what would that mean to our family, the customers, the whole bit? And man, we we did not set a large enough goal.
Yeah.
And it was within 8 months, 9 months, we were hitting 40 units a month.
That's
and
so
you have to
cool.
remember, like, coming from that 18-month period without a single sale.
Yeah.
And I remember in December of 2022, so 4 months after our launch, we had our first order that came through where there wasn't a touch, like from sales or myself, where it just came through organically on Shopify without a touch. And I was on a trail run at that time, same exact spot, ironically, that we made the decision. And I remember having goosebumps come all the way through my body, being like, wow, we actually have something here.
That is so awesome.
And we really built it from the ground up, all on trust and the relationships. And the ambassadors to us have been a huge organic driver for SISU. So just partnering with great quality people, similar values, but are really rooted in trust. Their audiences, their community have to trust what they do, what they say, how they go about their life.
Yeah.
If we didn't have that type of partnership, then SISU isn't what it is today. So we're always trying to align with the right people that are similar to, Nick and I, with our backgrounds, family-driven, faith-driven, that are, really embodying the SISU lifestyle. And it just so happens that, SISU sells saunas, and that the people that we partner with will use it every single day because it just aids their lifestyle perfectly. And that's how we've really grown the business, has been organic with extremely limited paid performance marketing. We've really done that intentionally because it just doesn't seem right to us. It doesn't sit right. I'd rather grow fast but safe.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, do it the right way. When I go to sleep at night, I know that we're building something that we could look back and be like, man, we did it the right way.
Yeah, it's all, and it's so cool to know that it's all happening here. Like the wood sourced from Idaho, the folks in Ohio, this Amish team they're creating it there in your facility. It's shipping out there. We got this awesome crate that came, and you cracked it open. It smells so good. Like, it's just this whole experience you're offering. I love that you had that moment, because so many people have those moments in life where it's just like, we should just be done. Like, and in my own story, there was times where I was like, maybe I should just be done. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. And then there's this little spark. There's this little voice in your head that's like, you're made to conquer. You're meant to be doing so. And I had to allow myself to pivot a little bit. And it looks like that's kind of what you guys did. You had this sudden burst of inspiration where it's like, we don't have to do it the same way. We can still have an end result that's incredible and probably much bigger than we ever expected. And maybe we just need to pivot a little bit and do it a little differently. And then the juices start flowing. And for me, my wife was kind of at one of those pillars. Was just, she wouldn't let me quit. It was like, no, this is what we set out to do, And so having that type of support from the home front is incredible. But, so, I mean, have you had to do, because I listen to stories like this all the time. Yours is very unique. And, but it's like, there are these moments that define you, and there's these $92, $95 monthly bills. You're like, can we even pay that? But people on social media, they're seeing this amazing brand. You're with amazing people. You're out traveling the country, setting up these relationships and these saunas for those relationships. And it can get lost on everyone that $95 monthly bill was like a major sacrifice, a major, mountain to climb at the time.
I view that from so many different aspects. Our family, my wife and I have been married for 7 years. Paige is not only my best friend, but I'm just the luckiest husband in the world. But then also have our son Crew, who's 3, about to go on to 4. Our daughter Charlotte, that's going to turn 2 here in a week. We named the Crew and we named our 2 new cabin saunas in August 1 of last year that we launched after our kids.
So cool.
And I don't know, to me, it's just like, it's meant to be fun. It's meant to be fulfilling. I think family is a really important aspect to it. And I want to include them in that. And as I look back and reflect on just our family finances, the training, my relationship with my wife, and then where Sisu's been, we just always want to make sure we're doing, like I've been saying before, just doing the right thing, making sure that we reflect on the gap and the gain of here's where we were, here's where we're at, and then here's where we're going, and never lose sight of the progress that you're making, but then also make sure that you know the next steps, but don't get too bogged down in the next steps. Let's, take the right bite-sized chunk, take that first initial step and keep moving. It's really, really important. And one of the things that we felt really called to do this past year was create this initiative that's similar to Conquer Hunger called SISU Impact that our family is really, really motivated by. So we have really two philanthropic arms. We have one within SISU and one outside of SISU. The SISU Impact program, every single month this year, we're gifting a completely free sauna covering the electric install. We're sending our team out. I'm doing my best to be a part of them as well, where we select an individual through an application where they cannot financially afford the sauna, where they are really in the moment where they need SISU at the all-time high, where they have a medical diagnosis, they're a veteran with PTSD or disability or an active duty member. It's the fire station that is in an absolutely brutal spot of town. Like we just gifted a sauna to an East Cleveland Fire Department where they are much more than firefighters. They're doing stuff that you wouldn't even be able to comprehend, but it's in one of the most low income producing towns in really the Midwest. And it's been really motivating for our company because it's done a couple things. It's made sure that we are profitable enough for us to be able to always gift.
Yeah.
To,
it motivates you to make sure.
Yes. Yeah. So it keeps you honest. It keeps our heart in the right spot, makes us continue to honor and have faith in God. But more so, it's been a huge galvanizing tool for the business from a culture standpoint where, we're not a perfect business. We don't have a perfect product. There's not a single business out there that does. Right. There's moments in business where it gets really hard and there's issues that pop up and opportunities. And sometimes the issues seem like, how are we going to get past this? Yeah. And then you get to make that call the same day, or you get to go on and say, hey, we would love to gift you the sauna. And I'm trying to fight back tears because, this is just this was his plan. And I'm super grateful that we get this calling to do this. Awesome. And so 2025 is a really big year. We'll gift 12 saunas next year. The goal is to do double that, following double that, and just keep it going. It's amazing. The other philanthropic arm within the family, about a couple months ago, the Nelson Family Foundation nonprofit got off the ground, where Hell on Hogsback, the race that I was chatting about earlier, talk about that, will live underneath. And Hell on Hogsback is a 12-hour endurance race up a 125-foot hill in Cleveland, 22% grade, 12-hour max distance. And the 12 hours represents the 12 hours my dad was in surgery for his tongue cancer. Wow. And that was the hill that we always would run on. That was the last hill that we ran on prior to his surgery as well. The day prior to his surgery, we ran on the hill. Wow. And the initial goal was to have 10 people, 10 of my friends, run to bring awareness to people that cannot afford the medical bills when they're faced with these crazy circumstances. Yeah. And so we just put out like a small Eventbrite, literally just to be able to have a waiver out there. Yeah. And we had 95 people show up year one.
That was 2 or 3 years ago?
2 years ago now. This is year 3. And we were able to gift to an incredible individual, former military with brain cancer, and gift them a $7,000 check, just hand delivered. Amazing. And then last year we had 225 runners. And then this year our goal is 500 registrants with $52,000 raised. It's amazing, man. So it's just, it lights the fire every single day to just not only like stick through the tough parts, make sure that we're always leaning on like what God's calling us to do. But then even more so, I'm just a big believer of doing the hard right over the easy wrong. Yeah. It's not easy, running a business is not easy. Going out and doing the miles, it's not easy, giving. Right. It's intentionally hard. And it's also, to me, it's something that I've always struggled with. And I just kind of got to a point where I'm like, there's zero reason for me not to take advantage of the gifts that God has given us and nurture them and do the right things with them.
Yeah, it's incredible what you're doing. That Was that the one your dad, was it that first race
Yeah.
that he did 40 of them or 40 miles that?
That was, yes. So 6 months after his surgery, where he ran the 40 miles, was actually at Helena Hogsback, which was all designed for him.
For
We didn't
him.
think he was going to run the race. We thought he was just going to stand, come on in, and we would introduce him when we were doing the speech of why we were
Yeah.
doing the event. But he toed the line and then ran 40 miles,
Wow.
and it was incredible.
So inspiring, man.
He had his, he parked, my mom dropped him off because he wasn't able to drive at the time. And
Couldn't drive, but he could run 40 miles.
it's twisted, right?
Wow.
And he had his folding chair and he had a little cooler.
Uh-huh. He's ready to go.
It was a 0.75 mile loop. You would go up and down. And at the end, him and I shared a beer.
Yeah.
And it's one of the few photos that I should definitely get framed.
Yeah, you should. That's
Just a
amazing.
really special moment.
What does this all mean to your dad and mom now? Like the things that you're doing, the way you're living your life. I can only imagine how proud they are of you.
It's I've got a great relationship with my parents. My mom, she works in the insurance space, like doing claims. So she's always, my sister's probably laughing right now. She is always about, hey, do you have insurance? Do you have saunas? Like you have no idea all these claims I get across my desk on all these different other businesses. Are you all squared away? So I think she's always, on the side of, I'm proud of you, but just make sure that you're covered. And then I've been able to include my dad on a couple ambassador trips like
Yeah.
this,
Uh-huh.
or relationship driven trips, and he loves it. And it's just cool that he could like come in and help and
So
just be a
awesome.
part of it. And
Yeah.
we just shoot the crap like any two dudes, and
I
we
love
have a
it.
good time. And I think
Good.
that both my parents definitely, I'm sure that they reflect on it and say like, wow, like that's awesome. But I also don't think that they take it like a ton of stock in it, because it's just like, hey, this is just what we do as a family.
Yeah. We're working hard. We're
Yeah.
looking
Doesn't matter
after
the amount of,
people.
doesn't matter about it does not matter about the amount of money you make. Doesn't matter about like the perceived success that people see on the outside. They just want to make sure that like I'm still true to the values that they raised us on. And if I was going off that, I'm sure I would get a tongue lashing from my mom.
Yeah, and
So
we talked about this at dinner last night. Success is knowing that those who know you best love you most, and it has nothing to do with the amount of money. It has,
right.
and staying true to the core values. Those who know you best at your core, they love you most, and that's where the value is found. And so, I'm sure that they're just extremely proud of all that you're doing for the community, for your family, for them. And man, it's super inspiring. It's awesome that you've been able to take your dad out on some of these trips, and you've talked multiple times, and you've touched on trust. That trust is built, I mean, because of who you are. Like you're a trustworthy individual. I could sense that from the moment we started. We chatted on that first call. I could sense it from what I was seeing on social as well, but I more so when we had that call, and I was running late to the airport. My car was breaking down, and I was like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I'm running a little late." And you were just super kind. We had a good conversation, kind of put this together, plan on doing this, but and then I respect and trust Andy, and when he messaged me too, and then on the side he's like, "Hey, you guys are cut from the same cloth," which was a super big compliment from what I was seeing from you, and but I can just sense that when you go out with people and you're doing these events or you're doing these experiences where you're building these saunas, like they're gonna feel trust from you. So I would just encourage you to keep getting out in front of people, because you as an individual bring so much trust to what SISU is, and being able to see behind the scenes of what you guys are doing, it's incredible. It's definitely a brand I will tell all my friends about. I'm obviously like anyone listening right now, check them out. But what are some of those fun relationships that people might know of that you've been out, either selling saunas to or building saunas for? Like
Yeah.
and was there a highlight of one of these
Oh,
individuals? I
geez.
mean, there's a lot, and I know you probably don't want to just recognize one, but what's been one of the funnest or most unique?
I really believe in Sisu. The biggest equity that we have is the relationship quality that we have. We were just with Truett Haynes this morning, and I think back upon, at least in the hunting space, outdoor space, Cam Haynes was the first person that we really built a relationship
Okay.
with. And I always admired him. He lives life the way I like to
Yeah.
live, and rooted in intentional grit, and
Yeah.
just gets after it. And I could speak just real quick on that, it was April of last year, and we're a year and some change into the business. And I went out there and built the sauna for him. My flight going out to Eugene, Oregon from Cleveland, Ohio, connected in Phoenix. My flight was delayed. I get down to Phoenix. I'm running probably like a 5:15 mile through the airport. And it was truly across the airport. It was about a mile. And I get there, and it was like Home Alone 2. The door was closing on the airplane. I'm like, I gotta get in that flight. And they're like, all right, get in there. And like, is my check bag there? Because it has all my tools. And they're like, if you got here, that means that your check bag's there. And I got the notification on my phone. Tools are on board. Awesome. Sweet. I'm sweating in my seat. Yeah. I show up, and Cam's team and our team had talked, but Cam and I had never talked. Okay. So he thought I was just a Eugene, Oregon installer, local kid.
No way.
So he's like, hey, yeah, I'm super pumped about this. Let me know if you need anything. I'm going to go for my run. I'm like, all right, sounds good. And I didn't introduce myself. I just thought that he knew like that I owned the company. And, wow. And I wasn't like taken back by it. I was like, oh, he's probably on his schedule. Yeah. He's just going to go for his run. Yeah. So he goes for his run and comes back. And I realized as I was finishing up the build out, when he got back after his hour and a half or so run, that I needed to do a better job. It was a great learning moment of I need to introduce myself. I can't assume everybody knows who I am. And I think it was just a little bit of ego involved on my end. And so I introduced myself and said, hey, I'm Pete Nelson. I'm the founder of SISU. I did a really poor job of introducing myself early. He's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And so we got the chat.
That's so funny.
You know, I had my like running shorts on, my running shoes, the whole bit. We got to talk about running, hunting, the whole bit. I've never been on a hunt, so I was just inquisitive. And so the next day, I show back up in the morning, just finish up some electric, and he invited me back over to just chat and hang. And he zero expectation. I just only thought I was just going to be able to meet Cam, make sure he was adequately set up, take a couple photos on my iPhone, and call it a day. So show up, and he said, hey, I'm thinking this morning, let's go run Spencer's Butte, come down, we'll go grab some breakfast over at a local diner, and then we'll come back, we'll do a quick sauna cold plunge, and then we'll podcast. Wow. I remember just being like, what? Huh. You know, like,
so like that wasn't planned.
Zero planned. So 4 hours prior to the podcast we did, I had no idea. And then that was like the first big podcast I had ever done. And it was a life-changing podcast.
That's amazing.
And it was just an opportunity where I realized that this is something that, you know, God's like clearly putting on SISU and myself to just, you know, put it out there. And a few other people in the hunting space, Chad Mendez, we were just with a couple weeks ago. Chad's a good friend, great guy. I was able to do a little bit of jujitsu with him for the first time. Funny story, we were in the octagon together and he was throwing some jabs. Yeah. And I had this protective pad around my abdomen. And Luke Dissenberry is there in the octagon with us taking photo video. And Chad just starts wailing.
Oh, really?
In this protective pad. And I'm just like, you know. And he got me with a liver, like a side hook right in the liver, and it just sucked all the air out of me. And I lost my air. And I just stood there just paralyzed, almost just like for 15 seconds. And Luke just puts the camera on me. You just see me standing there. Wow. It was so cool. But he's
that video clip coming out here soon.
It will. Yeah. It'll be in a YouTube video.
That's awesome.
And but he got an Eddie barrel and just a really great guy. He's sending out a Hoyt bow, which I'm really excited to learn how to shoot. And but outside of that, some of the other big names that we've been really blessed to work with, like Jelly Roll, Lewis Howes, Nick Bear, the best ultra runner of all time, Harvey Lewis, I was just running with last weekend. We did 21 miles in the Hogging Hills of Ohio, and he's a lunatic. He ran 450 miles continuous for a last man standing race. Wow.
Unreal.
We've just been really, really fortunate to have a great just set of relationships that we could build off of. And, but even more so just nurture and have a great time with. At the end of the day, I think about it, even if nothing came of it business-wise, just the fact that we got to meet them and understand like they're great people, just like, you know, just like anybody else that we hang out with. and we get that core memory, that's worth it into of
Definitely.
itself. But when you start to see that there's an impact on the business too,
Yeah.
it's indescribable.
It's all about relationships, right? And it's through connection that we conquer. We love to connect and conquer here at Mountain Ops, and I think you're one who just easily connects with people. People feel welcome, they feel invited, they feel the trust right away, and so you're easy to say, like it's easy to say to someone, you should work with Pete.
That means a lot.
And so I appreciate that about you and your character. So, and it's picked up on really quickly. I think the more we age and we experience all the different kinds of people out there, you can pick up quickly on who you can trust, who you want to spend time with, who it's easy to spend time with, who can you be yourself with, and you definitely have those qualities. So, so tell us about the sauna, the actual experience. Like yesterday, you spoke to the team, you got to experience some of the Mountain Ops culture. We go down, we do Pete 90X, and then we, and then I think you should come out with some DVDs, man.
That's
VHS.
We're gonna do a YouTube series.
And then we saunaed a bunch of the Mountain Ops team, but tell us the kind of the science behind it, how these saunas are built to help people that way, and how they should use them. Just kind of give us a little glimpse into that. And everyone go buy your SISU Sauna and then listen to this podcast and listen to this educational portion of it. What should we be doing as a team, as individuals? Because we're here at an HQ at an office place. Most of your sales go into the home, right?
Yeah, it's 95% of sales are all residential.
Yeah.
We have 4 SKUs. We have 2 size barrels, so a 2-person barrel sauna, a 6-person barrel sauna, and we have a 2-person cabin sauna and a 6-person cabin sauna. Intentionally, we only have those 4 SKUs. I believe anything past that really adds complexity to the buying experience. And for us, again, simplicity says limited options with quality-driven products that are rooted in trust. So that's what we've done with Eddie Barrel, the Edwin Barrel, the Charlie Cabin, and the Crew Cabin. So when you look at sauna specific and the way that we've designed our products, the objective data that has come out on sauna therapy and the research that's coming out is fantastic. And in the US, we really, really gravitate toward the objective data. People want to see data and they want to back up like what they're doing and back up also a reason to buy specific products. When you look in Europe and all these other spots where like sauna is really prominent, they don't really care about the research. They care subjectively of how they feel from using a product. Okay. So if that means that it helped them, sleep better, feel better, forge a better relationship with the person that was in the sauna with them, like that's the reason why they're buying. For me, I think the best selling points on sauna are the subjective qualities, even more so than the great benefits that come from the objective data. Okay. But if we just pull those two apart, the objective data says that the best key factor with traditional hot, dry sauna, if you pour water on the rocks too, great, shows a minimum of 176 degrees, perform 15 to 20 minutes, 4 times weekly, shows a decrease in all-cause mortality of 50% compared to those who just sauna 1 time weekly. Wow. So that in and of itself tells you that it's not necessarily just the sauna that's making that impact, it's the lifestyle around it. So the person that saunas 4 to 5 times weekly is also somebody that's probably running, lifting, eating the right foods, sleeping well, has good relationships. Wow. Right? There's a lot of good things. They're mitigating stress, the whole bit. On the subjective side, what that tells you is that they are probably enjoying that sauna session with somebody. So they have great conversation without their phone. Yeah. You can't measure that in a study.
And the time passes, because it's a real workout. Like it starts out just relaxing and all that, but when you're getting up to the 20-minute point and you're at 190, 200 degrees, those last few minutes, you've
got to experience it a few times.
Yeah, 3 times in the last 24 hours. Yeah. Pretty incredible experience. But you start to have to work like, wow, my mind, I need to turn my mind on right now to last another minute.
It becomes it's a legitimate workout. Yeah. Mentally too. If you do a solo sauna session, I'm excited to see how you do on a solo session. It's completely different than doing with a group. You realize how weak you are in your mind when you're doing it solo because
the conversation's not there. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you have to go deep into your brain. Subjectively too, the reason why we really created Sisu, a large portion of our mission is to forge grit and connection.
Okay.
So connection with the people inside the sauna as well as yourself. There's a spiritual side to sauna that I really believe in as well. Like
Yeah.
I think heat is something that people just need to experience, and whether or not you're a believer or not, I think that there's something spiritual about being in a literal box of wood or a barrel of wood, and you're attached to the elements with no phone and complete solitude.
Love it.
I think that that's a huge aspect. But then there's also the grit side of, yes, I can make a sauna session very easy, relaxing, zone 1, maybe low zone 2 with a heart rate, and I would feel great after. But then you could also crank it up or stay in longer, where all of a sudden that becomes truly a workout. There's been times where I'm in zone 3 in a sauna just sitting there.
Wow.
And I'm feeling it hard, and I have to fight the urge to get out of the sauna, and I need to stay in for another 4 or 5 minutes. And I think that that's a great application to the other things that we all do in life.
Yeah.
So that's the subjective side. I also want to say too, some of the best business ideas and best business meetings we've ever had came from the sauna. Are at the very initial onset of us deciding to go to manufacturing. We actually had our pens and papers out in a sauna with it cranked up, and that's where we had the meeting because we felt it was proper.
Did you keep those pens and papers? Like you need to have those framed or something. Or they all
Unfortunately, no.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, no.
Sometimes you don't think about that in the moment, but that's awesome. Those are sacred moments for sure.
It wasn't a Write in the Rain notebook either. I have a iPhone note from a few years ago that I look back upon here and there. And it's cool.
It's awesome.
The objective side, so outside of the longevity standpoint, there's increases in VO2 max for those individuals that combine exercise with sauna therapy. So whether it's a run, lift, or whatnot, followed up with sauna therapy, it's great for additional zone 2 training, so cardiorespiratory baseline function. And then also at the same time, it's great for preventing the onset of Alzheimer's and dementia. So there's BDNF, so brain-derived neurotropic factor, which is a huge benefit for sauna therapy, where the heat stress triggers some synapses in the brain for people to be able to stay mentally together. Not just, subjectively, but also objectively. Like you actually start to see people bridge connections. You also have improved quality in sleep. So whether or not you decide to position the sauna in the morning, midday, or evening, we are finding that from the user data coming out, 73% of sauna goers do it at night. So after work, if you have kids, it's typically after the kids go down. And position it about an hour prior to bed. It's great for sleep because you're essentially inducing a fever in a sauna. You come out of the sauna, and then your body's going to fight to bring the body temperature back down to cool itself off. So it actually goes below baseline in the exact same way that you do when you fall asleep when you're laying in bed. It actually goes below baseline so you could get deep into your sleep. So that actually triggers that response quicker, and now you're staying asleep longer and getting to sleep quicker. So
last night we did 2 rounds in the sauna. We didn't do it right before bed, but last night I went to bed at midnight, and at 5 o'clock this morning, boom, like lights, like I was wide awake, and I felt like I had rested really well. Is that kind of correlation?
Yeah, that's the stuff that they're finding.
Okay.
There's more and more benefits continue to come out on lean muscle mass, heat shock proteins, which are essentially protective mechanisms for making sure like the structure of the tissue doesn't fold when it gets into like really hot environments. So it actually helps preserve the 3-dimensional structure of our tissue and our proteins. So it's essentially like it lets our body be able to adapt to super, super hot environments, which is why it's so great for firefighters, and then also for them to be able to detox from the carcinogens that they get when they're going into fires. What we're finding with sauna, when you're looking at all these amazing benefits, what we're finding is that just the more that you sauna, the better it becomes. Okay. I'm not saying that you do it 3 times a day, but there's legitimate differences in 2 times weekly versus 4 times weekly, 4 times weekly versus 7 times weekly. Okay. And I think that the more consistent you are, just like anything else, the better you're going to be with it. It's also great, anecdotally speaking, I've noticed that if I am bloated from eating something that I shouldn't have eaten, it really gets rid of that bloat quicker. Wow. It makes me a better sweater, which I think is key because it helps keep your body temp lower because you're more efficient at sweating. It also makes you like prioritize electrolytes, key hydration, a whole bit. And all of that, when you stack it up, it's like, wow, there's amazing subjective and objective benefits to sauna. And I think that over the next few years, especially as people are looking for the better for you alternatives to the Friday night, Saturday night drinking, my vision of the next number of years with in the United States culture is that people are truly hosting out of their homes Friday, Saturday nights, doing sauna, cold plunge, hanging out in the backyard around a fire and away from their phones and doing things that are really better for themselves. And I love that we've been entrusted with this business to be able to help kickstart some of that and be a key player for people to really do all those things.
Yeah.
And I think that the sauna is such a great vehicle to manifest it.
So amazing, man. Yeah, that's powerful. I'm stoked to be diving into this because I've been following you, watching you, reading the research, and now we have it here to take advantage of, and hopefully soon one in our backyard as well, so the whole family can. They'll be coming up here as well until that happens. But really excited for all that you're doing. Congratulations on how the business is going. It's incredible to see. And that's why I said at the beginning, you're not just a sauna guy. There's so much more to this brand than just the sauna, the lives that you're changing because of it, the impact that you guys are having with your impact initiative is both of them. It's incredible. And so I'm proud of all that you're doing. What's next on the horizon? Any upcoming products that you're excited about, or anything you'd want to mention that people should be looking for?
So this will be the first public medium that I'll put this out on.
Okay.
This year we'll have a SISU cold plunge coming out, which will be a stainless steel interior cedar surround cold plunge. And I'm really excited about that because it'll universally fit every single chiller on the market.
Cool.
And I'm not a big fan of cold plunging. Like, I think it's just really hard. It never gets easier. The sauna makes it a little bit easier. But it is like the mustard to the ketchup, in my opinion. It's fun, and it's a great way to get people out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. And then also we have our Eden shower, which is an outdoor shower. We had one earlier on that had some reliability issues I wasn't really a big fan of. And it was also just way too early on in the business. So I'm excited to relaunch that alongside the cold plunge. And then we're working on some like back end products that I'm really excited about that I know that we've talked about that I don't feel comfortable putting out there yet.
It's all good. Yeah.
And then personally, we talked about the events, but my wife and I are just really hell-bent on just being the best, husband, wife, and parents that we could possibly be.
Yeah.
And, nurture a great family, make some great memories, travel, and
that's
do our best to try to balance the priorities.
Talk about that real quick, because most of our listeners are husbands or wives. Those are the most important realms of their life. You're busy, you're traveling around, you've got a business going. You've got two beautiful children, your beautiful wife. Like, how are you finding time for it all? And what's something that you can share with our listeners that will help them conquer in those realms to make sure that those are receiving the attention they need?
Yeah, I don't have a secret sauce to tell you, but I will tell you the few things that give my wife and I a lot of success together is that we have consistent communication. And that's not just the lovey-dovey positive communication. It's also like the transparent communication that I don't want to hear sometimes and that she doesn't want to hear sometimes. And it lets us be on an even playing field to where we know that for us to be able to do what we both want to do, like, she's an incredible runner. She's running a half marathon in every single state. She just set an all-time PR in her half marathon. She ran I think a 1:52 half marathon after having two kids within, a year and a half of each other. And
it's awesome.
She works out even earlier than I do. She works out at 5 a.m. I'm working out at 5:30. She's up before me, and it's awesome. She is a true savage. She drives a white Chevy Silverado, grew up in the country of Toledo. Awesome. Her parents are amazing. One of four. She's got three brothers, the whole bit.
Yeah.
But anyways, trying to balance it all, like the consistent communication's key, but it's always hard. Yeah. It's never easy. I think the best way to describe it, I think everybody's very about compound interest and, passive income and all this stuff. And for us, we view our relationship not as passive income where we have to do this work up front and then we can kind of take our foot off the pedal and just let it build over time. That's not how a relationship works. It's not how our health works. Yeah. And so for us, we really view our relationship as something of hey, this is you got to punch in every single day. And we have to make the effort to prioritize our relationship. We have to make the effort to prioritize relationship with our kids. And we want to set the example for our kids by showing them what love looks like and also what tough times look like and what shared suffering, intentional suffering looks like, and the opposite too. So Paige and I do that. And then also at the same time, we do a weekly check-in. I would say like 75% of the time we're doing it based off of schedules, where it's almost like set up similar to a business meeting, where we go through an agenda of here's what's happening, here's the schedule, here's the workouts for the week, here's the grocery list, here's the events coming up, where do we need the babysitters, issues, opportunities that we're both experiencing, travel coming up. And then it's always this list of things that we know that we need to keep the pulse on.
Wow.
So when we're looking at the week ahead, the month ahead, we're already planning, preparing. We have the to-dos all squared away. So she knows what to expect. I know what to expect. If I'm out on travel, she already knows we're getting the right sitters involved, families getting involved, the whole bit.
Wow.
So those are two key things that require a lot of work, a lot of trust, and a lot of communication.
Yeah, that communication
not easy.
is so key, right? And but builds the trust when there's that transparency. And
certainly,
I love that agenda. That's awesome that you guys do, and the weekly check-in.
I will say one other thing that we do that I love. Paige and I do one coffee date every single week. So she works at home on Mondays and Fridays, goes into the office. She works a full-time job, cool. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday as well, and she goes into the office those days. But we do a weekly coffee date, and then we always go out every week for a date night, and it's always a different date night. So whether that's, going to a restaurant or going for a walk or just, that time together where we actually get to date each other while being 7 years into marriage, about to be 7 years into marriage, it's huge. You never want to lose that.
That's amazing.
That aspect of the relationship.
Yeah, that relationship, that connection is so important. And another one I'd love to just touch on real quick before we wrap things up is your relationship with God and how faith, I mean, you've mentioned it a few times in this conversation, but how has that, your faith played a role in all that you're doing right now? What are the major impacts?
I never realized how important my faith would be up until maybe, I would say 2 years ago. My business partner, Nick, and his brother, George, who's our SISU team lead / like director of sales, he's my business coach.
Okay.
And I wouldn't say that they're super outward with their faith, but they are very faith driven.
Yeah.
And the more I got to talking with them, the more I realized just how unique our situation is and how it's not a coincidence, in that we really feel like God has his hand on our business and he's working through us and working through the business to make an impact. We really believe that.
Yeah.
And it's helped us really understand, like when we're in a tough situation, say with a customer or an issue, it always puts it black and white to us of what does God want us to do in this situation, and just do that thing. If that means that it's going to cost us money, if that means it's going to cost us time, we're going to do it. And it's just the right thing to do. Yeah. And so that filter on how we approach opportunities, issues, product development, key hires, it's the ultimate filter. It's actually how we hire as well. Over the last, 9 months, I think we've hired 10 or so people, and every single one of them are Christian driven. And I don't think it's, again, by coincidence. Yeah. And we're not saying like you have to be a Christian to be part of SISU at all. Yeah. It just so happens that I think the people that we're attracting and the people that we end up hiring and getting to work together with side by side every single day, it just makes it very purpose and mission driven. But I think honestly, if there was one aspect where I was like, all right, God, like stop showing off, was when Charlie Nelson came to do my dad's brain surgery. That was the hook, line, and sinker. I didn't know. I did not need to know anything more. Yeah, that was it. And there was a couple other instances along the way there, completely outside of the business, where you just point your finger at and say, "Wow, you can't make that up." Yeah, so
that was special. That's pretty incredible. Well, thanks for sharing that. I know a lot of our audience appreciates that when there is a recognition of God's hand involved in the details of the details, down to the name of Charlie Nelson. Like it just...
that guy's name was not Charlie Nelson, by the way. Like there's no way this guy that spoke super loose English from India, like he chose that name or something.
It's amazing.
You know that he wasn't given that name at birth.
Yeah,
so it was crazy, man. You couldn't make that up.
Wow, that's cool. Thanks for taking the time to share all this with us. Any other points that you'd want to touch on before we got to sample a couple products here? Yeah. But anything that I'm missing?
No, you're an incredible interviewer, but even more so, I'm just so grateful for the time that we've had the last 3 days. It's just
Me
the
too.
coolest thing, and
Such an
you
honor
have
for me.
you have an incredible group of
Yeah.
people that are all aligned on the mission and the purpose that you've, put out there, and
Yeah.
it's really cool to see. And I love seeing how other entrepreneurs work and
Yeah.
how they lead. And you're so well spoken, and
I
one of the
appreciate it.
biggest things I really admire. Is your vulnerability of how you said that you've struggled with the future and trying to figure out the next steps and how you're navigating that. I think that rawness is something that I know that you pray about and you
Yeah.
have great advisorship for.
Yeah.
And again, just really reflecting back upon it, I think that it just comes back to our conversation of just being abundantly present and
Yeah.
being like, hey, like Jeremiah 29:11,
Yeah.
plans for you declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, to give you a future and hope. Like, hey, that's all I need to
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
So um,
Yeah.
it's cool seeing how that it's all worked together in your culture that you've built here.
I love it. Thank you so much for those words. And man, I've learned so much over the last few days, and there's so much more to come, and we talked in the sauna yesterday. We don't know what the Lord has in store for this relationship, but we're going to do some incredible things
Yeah.
together. I'm excited for it all. And yeah, there's always this kind of anxiety of what's to come or what should be done, and I think it comes down to just that there's this real caring about like what's going on here and making sure that people are secure, the team's secure, that outcomes are what we'd hope for. And so, and that doesn't go to bed at night. It's like
Right.
that's always kind of on the shoulders of individuals like us that are trying to drive this mission forward. And so, I think it's because you care, but then you do have to come back to the present,
Yeah.
and you can be so easily distracted from what could come or what might happen. But you let God prevail, and you take each day at a time, line upon line. Um, so thank you so much. This has been incredible. I'll have one last question after we drink these, but
Let's
the
do it.
product team was just doing some samples. So we're going to live sample some of these products. I
Let's
think
do it.
Peyton sent me the names of the flavors. I'll bring them over to you.
While he's grabbing these, I have a number of supplement company products that we have in our pantry at home, and I've always struggled with finding a really good pre workout. We have we'll go to Costco and get the Ghost Energies, the C4s, and we'll down those before we work out in the morning. But man, let me tell you, this Yeti mode is
I love
it's
that you're sharing that.
incredible.
Yeah, here's this is that one
Yeah,
Yeti, and then Yeti mode
yeah.
right here that he's been taking the last few days. And
Yeah,
so
this it, I just found it to be really, really great tasting, mixes really well. I think you really have a great product here,
yeah,
and
thank you.
we just took some this morning when we were working out with Truett, and did some push-ups and, or I should say, bench and pull-ups. But I think this is a fantastic
Yeah,
product, and then also the electrolytes. You guys have a fantastic tasting mango peach. So
yeah,
great
so
job.
good, huh? No,
I think the experience of actually intaking it is arguably the most important. I think
yeah,
a lot of people nerd out about like the contents. Yes, it's really important, but I want to taste a product that's actually going to want me to encourage me to like take it
do
every
it
day.
again. Yeah,
Yeah. So it needs to mix well, needs to be able to scoop well, needs to look right. I need to be attracted to it, and it needs to
yeah,
taste great.
yeah.
And I think you guys crushed it.
I appreciate that a
Yeah.
ton. That means a lot. So awesome.
Yeah,
We've got a few flavors here in front of us. So we've got like the pink. Let's do this one first. It is a pink hydrate, huckleberry lemonade,
oof,
and
cheers.
huckleberry lemonade was, yeah. Cheers. Really good flavor for us in other products.
That'll play. This is hydrate.
This is hydrate.
I like that a lot. That's, you said the pink lemonade in there.
Yeah, there's hydrate, huckleberry lemonade. So there is the lemonade with the
Wow.
the huckleberries. We've sold that. We came out with a limited edition in Enduro and Ignite, and it just flew off the shelf. So we're bringing in hydrate for those of you who love that, and we've got a lot of requests. Where is it? Why is it gone? When's it coming back? We do limited edition flavors
Yeah.
all the time.
Cool.
You've seen all the
Yeah.
the different bottle designs. That's one of them. So the next one. So you say that's a thumbs up, or we need to work on it a little bit more? Or?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
Okay. I think they brought in the best ones because they
Yeah.
had like a ton of them over earlier.
These are
So
already thumbs up by the entire team.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So this next one, the green one, maybe let's see if you can guess the flavor on this one. And this is an Ignite.
Mm. Oh, it's like a grape. What is that? It's like, it reminds me of not a grape Fanta, but it's just like grape pop. It's grape, right?
It is grape.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
That's really
It's a
good.
sour grape, Ignite
Yeah,
sour grape. You get a little bit of the sour.
yeah.
I can see that.
It's just enough.
And I'm a big grape guy. Like my favorite flavor is Rocky Mountain Ricky, which is a lime Ricky,
Mm.
grape and lime. But this one, okay, this one's a little different. This is an Ignite as well. I'm gonna have you guess on this. I think
This is hard. I can't smell this one as much as
yeah, this is a different product flavor. It's gonna
Oh, there's a little bit of spice to that.
okay, so you got that. It does
There's a
have a burn.
habanero. Oh, geez.
Yep.
I can't tell if it's like a raspberry or like habanero. I should have done the whole thing.
That's awesome. You got the habanero because it's definitely a habanero.
Gosh, I'm struggling. What is
It's a
that?
habanero pineapple.
Thank
It's
you.
this
Okay,
fiery
okay.
pineapple. Yeah.
Not
So
raspberry. What is that? Come on. My palate. It's all messed
no,
up.
that's
from
actually
Slack
really
water
good that you
yesterday.
got that.
Yeah.
I know we went and
Yeah.
ate some pizza. We got some carbs. We were in some carbs last night, but okay,
That was good.
those are good. So give them a thumbs up on
Yeah.
those.
I'm always a fan of a little bit of spice.
Are you?
Like if I'm getting a drink or something like that, it's
Yeah.
typically like a spicy marg or something.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a
awesome.
really good drink.
Yeah, kind of burns a little going down. So, no, awesome. Thanks for doing that with us, and thanks for the call out on the product that you've been trying while you're here. We'll send some home with you.
That's dangerous.
Yeah. This has been incredible. I appreciate your time. There's one question I typically ask the guests, and it comes from a book that I love. And if you haven't read it yet, it's called How Will You Measure Your Life? And it talks about investments that we make into relationships. It comes from a Harvard professor that's been extremely done extremely well, in the financial world. But he brings it down back to relationships that will provide us the greatest dividends in our life. But I typically ask people at the end, as a conqueror in life, which I believe you are. I've watched it, I've seen it. I'm learning a lot from you as as you're conquering things, and you've inspired me to want to just push the limits a bit more in what I'm doing in many aspects. So I appreciate that. But how will you measure your life when all is said and done?
When I look at if I was at my own funeral and I look at the front row, the people that matter most to me, I want all of them to be able to say that he lived it the right way.
Wow.
And he did it through doing the things that he was called to do. And there's no flukes attached.
Love it.
That front row, everything else is noise, in my opinion.
Wow.
So if I'm going to build a business, if I'm going to go run the marathon, if I'm going to do an ultra, if I'm going to do this thing with my wife, everybody in the front row needs to have understood that there was a role and purpose to that. Otherwise, it didn't matter to me.
Wow.
And it was a distraction.
Yeah.
So honoring that to me is the most important thing, and just steward a life that honors it and cultivates that feeling for those people.
That is an amazing answer. I've not heard it quite like that. So everyone, who are the people on your front row, and
Oh, man.
how is how are their lives being impacted by you? Consider that when all is said and done, who's on the front row?
So my wife and I will tell you that we don't want to die before one another. So
I
I certainly hope that we both die at the exact
Same
same time. But if my wife is there, that's really important to me.
Yeah.
My kids and the grandkids, my best friends that I still nurture great relationships from childhood. Next week, we're going to a bachelor party in Puerto Rico from one of my best friends from growing up that we met in like 4th grade. And so a couple of my best friends, and more than likely a couple business partners that I've had along the way, of Lord knows what other businesses, if this is the only business or if there's other businesses that I'll be a part of. And outside of that, it might be 1 or 2 key relationships along the way that help me, honor and stay focused on my faith. Maybe a training partner that I've shared all these different miles with. And I'm just thinking like there's probably 10 to 15 people within that are truly, family, friends, or had that significant impact on me. And none of it is financially driven. It was just all about the memories, the experience, and the legacy. And I'm never very legacy driven. It's just more so I just want to be able to say when this is all said and done, I kick the can, that he did it the right way.
Yeah.
So
Well, you're doing it the right way, man. Thank you for your example. This has been an incredible conversation. I'm learning so much, and I look forward to what's to come.
absolutely, man. Same. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
take care. Safe travels back to
Yeah.
Cleveland.
Thank you.